Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up the wrong side because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Remember a long time ago at a football game when we thought Taco wasn't getting booed, but he was getting cheered? And now it's fairly obvious nobody likes this man. Good times. Today's date, November 12th, 2025, and this is How the Frack Got Here. I am your host, the most Will Buchanan on the Frack Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast. We do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means we only cite from reputable sources with award-winning journalism and integrity. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast. Wherever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from, we simply don't do that. We provide you with just the facts, and that's it. At the same time, we do try to watch our language on the show, but words do fly at the same time, guys. Maybe things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers. So viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, got a lot to get into today, so let's get into it. Democrats, we got to have a come to Jesus meeting because I don't know how 8 of your Senate Democrats literally decided to take a wonderful advantage. Because I'm going to be honest with you, Democrats. I'm going to be so honest with you. You had the Republicans on the ropes. Cost is going up. SNAP benefits aren't covered. Everything is pricey. Nobody can afford anything. Republicans are on a 2-month vacation, still getting paid, mind you, while air traffic controllers, first responders, and all those that are considered essential workers are now missing up to 3 paychecks. And of course, Taco's approval ratings is in the toilet. You guys had it. You told the line. You sat there and said, above all else, unless we can get the ACA subsidies extended for another year, we're not talking to you guys. And yet, in the midst of 48 hours, this happens.
End is finally in sight after the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. In a late-night Sunday session on Capitol Hill, just enough Democrats voted to advance a Republican bill that would extend funding for the government through the end of January.
Well, we did not get our key demand. We got a bunch of other things in there.
These 8 senators breaking with their party to vote for the compromise, which does not include Democrats' key demand to extend Obamacare subsidies and prevent premiums from skyrocketing, the very demand that led to the government shutdown in the first place. Instead, Republicans are only promising a future vote on health care sometime next month. ABC's Rachel Scott questioned senators after the vote.
So how do you explain, though, to your constituents why it was worth it to put up this fight for so long when in the end you did not get your key demand?
Because it wasn't working. How long would it take to not get a response to say it isn't working? In other words, it's been 6 weeks. There's been the Republicans made it clear they weren't going to discuss the health care issue, the Affordable Care Act tax credits, until the shutdown was over.
Last night's deal does not mean the government is open. Senators still have to finalize the bill, and the House still needs to approve it, a process that could take days.
It's hard to try to depend on other people to help you.
But the deal now provides imminent relief for the millions of people on SNAP food assistance going without benefits, and for air travelers dealing with thousands of flight cancellations because of unpaid air traffic controllers calling out sick. The Senate bill would also reverse firings made by the administration during the shutdown and provide back pay to furloughed workers. Still, some Democrats are frustrated that their party may have backed down too soon.
I voted no just because I'm so pissed off. I'm just frustrated.
Others say Democrats made progress by securing a vote on health care in the coming weeks to put Republicans on the record. Former Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp says compromise won the day after a grueling 40-day shutdown that also put pressure on the White House.
The president was unwilling to engage in negotiation at all. So I think that they demonstrated that his unwillingness to engage in negotiation, to actually have a conversation about healthcare, have a conversation about food security, tells the public what they need to know, that this is not someone who's on their side.
President Trump is now proposing Americans receive direct payments to buy health insurance.
So we'll get to that part momentarily, but just one thing I gotta say, and I need to change up, because one thing I want to say right now before we get to the Hateful Eight. Man, it's been 6 minutes. What the fuck? What the hell? And again, Democrats, I don't understand you. And I'm not saying all Democrats, but I keep saying you wonder why Democrats seem to always have it. They for 40 plus days, because we're on day 42 of the shutdown. The shutdown hasn't ended yet. We're on day 42 right now. But the thing that I do not understand for the life of me, Democrats, you had them on the ropes. The Republicans were reeling. They had no answer. They still don't have an answer for health care. They still don't have nothing with a health care plan, not even concepts of a plan anymore. You had, if anything, the last round of voting that just happened last week was a sweep for you guys. A freaking sweep for you guys. You had all this momentum. And for 40 days, you've held the line, which, again, I'm going to go down this list. See, everybody here, Senator Tim Kaine, Senator Dick Durbin, Senator Maggie Hassan, Janine Shaheen, Jackie Rosen, Catherine Cortez, Senator John Fetterman, and Senator August King. Moderate centrist Democrats. And I'm trying to sum up what I could talk about for hours in just an hour here. Trying to, or even in a few sentences before we move on to the next thing. But the problem with Democrats is you have the old guard. You have the old guard. What is the old guard? The old guard is centrist, moderate Democrats. Republican, might as well be called Republican light. Because whenever something happens in the Democratic Party, it's always a moderate or a centrist. And their argument is, well, according to Senator August King, who, by the way, is filthy effing rich, mind you, who was still getting paid during the shutdown, mind you, who wasn't starving like many of his constituents, mind you, well, it wasn't working. What do you mean it was working? See, this is how I know. This is how I know for me. If I was going to be a reporter, I got to press them. What do you mean it's not working? You guys were dealing with a majority-ran House, a majority-ran Senate, the presidency, and a right-leaning SCOTUS. What? No offense. What the fuck were you waiting on? Because they're sitting there saying they don't have a plan. Whereas Democrats, you sat there and said, look, the shutdown is imminent. But if we're going to talk about anything, we're going to talk about these ACA subsidies, because we know off the bat, if those expire, everybody is going to pay, if not double, triple their premiums for healthcare, because healthcare in the U.S. is still a for-profit system. And that's the problem. Healthcare can still have lobbyists. Healthcare can pay lobbyists billions of dollars to fund into Congress to write the healthcare laws how they choose to. They can do that legally, thanks to Citizens United, because it never got overturned. So With that being said, Democrats, you had everything going for you except these freaking 8. Senator Tim Kaine is the one that surprised me out of everybody. This is like the whole thing of, we got a promise of a vote. We have a promise of a vote. Here's the thing that bothers me when they say, well, we don't have a guarantee per se. Why not? That was your leverage. That was your position. You had all the cards, and all you had to do was hold the line. Dick Durbin, Matt Gasson, Jenny Shaheen, these people, the reason why I keep pointing out these 8 and I call them the hateful 8 is because none of these people are up for re-election. Oh, trust me, people are already going in place. Primaries are already being set to have people run against them because these 8 people sided with Republicans. And I love how they sit there and say, well, this was compromise. Okay, let me be very clear, Democrats. Let me be very clear. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. The Republican Party are terrorists. You cannot negotiate with them because right now, what's going to look like is that those on the right-hand side are going to say it's a victory lap. Oh, thank goodness these 8 Democrats had common sense and decided to come across the pond and give up their only leverage to sit there and say, we will sign a bill that ends the shutdown so we can send it to the House and have the House vote on it. So hopefully the House press on it. And then somehow 3 votes later, it gets the president's desk and the government is reopened. Thank goodness these 8 Democrats decided to agree with us. That's what the Republicans are saying. The Republicans are touting this as a victory lap. And yet, every time it's the Democratic Party, every freaking time, it is always a centrist or a moderate. And I keep on saying this, and you're going to say this a lot during this podcast, especially this one, is that when it comes to Democratic Party, they all need to go. All of them need to go. What I mean by that, the moderate centrist Dems, progressives need to step up. Progressives in that party need to step up. There needs to be a changing of the Democratic Party. I'll be the first person to say it because we've seen what happened. MAGA has infiltrated the Republican Party, and the Republicans I don't even recognize that party anymore. I'm not saying Democrats have taken it to that extreme, but the old guard needs to go. It does. And I hate to say it, but it does. And it's, again, Pelosi, Schumer, all those, because I keep on saying what Congress is basically a nursing home with power. There needs to be term limits. I've said multiple times on this podcast, there needs to be term limits for senators and Republicans. For senators and representatives in the same sense as the presidency. I truly believe that. I said the same thing about the Supreme Court. I think the Supreme Court should have a term limit. I don't think it should be a lifetime appointment. I don't think it should be. I think that to keep everybody on their P's and Q's and for the time allotted, everybody should have term limits in positions of power in Congress. I truly believe that because we've seen what happens when people, don't know when it's time to leave or get set in their ways or try to explain it, because moderate centrist Democrats have always been the thorn in the Democratic Party. Because everybody remembers, does anybody remember Senator Joe Manchin, Senator Kristen Sinema? 2 names that I kept saying on this podcast because when Biden was president and he was pushing forward with a progressive agenda, I'm talking about increasing the minimum wage, really, tackling student loan debt, not the $20,000, $40,000 crap, really tackling it, even thinking about eliminating it altogether, was trying to push forward his Build Back America Better plan, which was actually investing in infrastructure and opening up jobs for construction and rebuilding of roads, bridges, tunnels, things of that nature. Remember that? And who out of everybody was against it? When the Democrats had the House, had majority in the Senate, and was passing everything through reconciliation in the Senate. Who was against it? Joe Manchin, because he didn't like the way that the plan looked to him. Keep in mind, at the time, Joe Manchin was from West Virginia. West Virginia is coal mining. Coal was their issue until coal mining was getting shut down because of environmental issues. And Joe Manchin did not like anything that involved energy that did not involve coal, even though he sat on the board for a coal mining company, which again, I think was a big ass conflict of interest, but that's just me. But not just him. Kristen Sinema from Arizona, who decided to take the Build Back America plan to her commerce chamber in Arizona and asked them if it was a good idea, to which she turned around and said no. Thankfully, these two people are no longer senators, but again, moderate, centrist Democrats have always stood in the way of progressive agendas. If the Democrats want to be relevant moving forward, they cannot be moderate, they must be progressive, they must be bold. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get more of this. You're going to get more of this while I'm about to show. Because again, John Fetterman went on The View, right, after this vote. And I don't like Fetterman, because Fetterman to me is like, he might just be Republican. But listen to this man's responses when they pressed him about his decision in the Hateful Eight.
Morning, Senator. So you were critical of this shutdown from the outset, saying it never should have happened, never should have come to this, even at times criticizing your own party. So I want to ask you, why did you ultimately decide to support this agreement? And where do you stand on the growing number of Democrats who are calling for Leader Schumer to step down in light of the shutdown deal?
Oh, there's a lot there. Well, first of all, it's not like I agreed to that. I mean, I've been consistently. Now, remember, this all that went back to March. I effectively kind of led the charge now that it's wrong to shut our government down. And then enough of us realized that that's just too risky and that's too much chaotic. And then we kept it open. And I know there was a lot of backlash for that. And I declared back then, we'll be right back in the end of September, and I will be there too, because it's fundamentally the wrong thing. When you're confronting mass chaos, I don't think you should respond with more chaos or fight with more chaos. It's like, we need to be the party of order and logic and now respond in a way. And now I refuse to weaponize the SNAP benefit for 42 million Americans, that rely on feeding themselves and their family, or making flying in America less safe. Or I refuse not to pay our military and all of the unions attached to all of this and people. So for me, it's like I don't agree with that tactic to respond to the circumstances that we're confronting on this. I absolutely support. What? I'm sorry. What?
Oh no, go ahead, Senator.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, it's like a Democratic Party has to respond. That we have to have the ability to agree to disagree on some of these core issues right now. And now, right, for me, I think it was the wrong thing to do those things, because under this shutdown, no one was getting anything. There was no SNAP. There was no, healthcare extensions on those things around there too. So for me, it's like reasonable Democrats can disagree on certain kinds of core things, but I hope we could all agree that chaos is the wrong response for the kinds of chaos that our nation has been in after the president's reelection.
And can I just follow up? Is Leader Schumer, in your mind, the right leader for this moment for Democrats?
I'm saying that it's like, that's not really my concern right now. It's not like a leadership situation. It is, we are living in the backlash of the election. It's been effectively a year now. America decided to put us in the minority. And now in terms of leadership right now, what defines leadership for me? I think that's order and logic and describing people exactly where we're at. And now we were all energized by the election just last week. And now for me, I think it's like, hey, let's take the win on that. And now we know there's a lot of backlash to this kinds of chaos. And now voters are going to respond to more order and the more kinds of not violating our core values to plunge our country into chaos for 42 million Americans. Food security, that's really parts of the essence of kind of people that I fight for. Now we have to be able to disagree on these things. And if you can't, and now as a committed Democrat that vote 90% of the Democratic line. I mean, now like that might be a bigger problem with our party in some way, that a committed Democrat from the most difficult and purple state in the country says, hey, I'm trying to call balls and strikes in the middle of this chaos.
Well, Senator Bernie Sanders said the vote was a horrific mistake. Governor Gavin Newsom called it pathetic and a surrender. Poll after poll found more Americans on both sides of the aisle blaming Republicans. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene blamed the GOP. As you mentioned, Democrats had big wins last week, so you had momentum. Why give in now? Why bring a butter knife to a gunfight? Are you willing to gamble that the GOP will negotiate on health care in good faith once the government reopens? Because if that gamble is wrong, 500,000 Pennsylvanians that you represent, their health care costs will skyrocket if you are wrong. And I believe you are wrong.
Well, first of all, MTG is quite literally the last person in America that I'm going to take advice or to get their kinds of my leadership and values from. And now if Democrats are celebrating crazy pants like that, then that's on them. And now I don't need a lecture. I don't need a lecture from whether it's Bernie or the governor in California, because they are representing very deep blue kinds of populations. And a lot of those things were part of the extreme. And now remember, what really needs to win, the big win, is involving my state and other states and those things. And why have we arrived here after the election a year ago? We got to forget some of the things that cost us that election. Or now for me, it's like, that's why I'm trying to remind people that kinds of the extremism, we can't return to those kind of things and realize we need to find a way forward. And I would like to, rather than cite MTG, I'm going to cite one of the new governor-elects saying that my election is not a green light to continue the shutdown, because I promise you, this isn't a political game. It is viewed by many of us, but the reality is 42 million Americans now not sure where their next meal is going to come from. And because we vote like that, or people that haven't been paid for 5.
And I just realized I was muted. My bad. So to recap everything I just said, because I just realized I was muted. My bad. Senator Fetterman is definitely Republican. He is Joe Manchin version 2. And at the same time, guys, it never ceased to amaze me, never does, that the word salad that he just did, out of all that word salad, you know what happened? What happened was, I'm trying to keep my job. Not the constituents. I am trying to keep my job. It's hard trying to be a Democrat in Pennsylvania. I'm trying to keep my job. I can care less what Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks, even though out of all the crazy, a broken clock is usually right twice a day. But I'm trying to keep my job. Do you think Chuck Schumer is a good leader for the Democratic Party? Well, it's not for me to say. Accountability. Let's pass the ball. If anything, he acts more Republican than he does Democrat. So Senator Fetterman, miss me with the bullshit. Just go Republican. Just go Republican. I mean, the more I think about it, what have you actually done since you've been elected for the great state of Pennsylvania? Because I honestly can't think of shit. But it amazes me between him and the rest of the Hateful Eight, how they're trying to explain themselves away. And Schumer, and let me also say this, Minority Leader Schumer did not like this. This was not orchestrated by him. Him and other Democrats are basically against this. However, Schumer, there is some blame in this for you, because this goes back to what I said about the old guard needing to be removed. Because again, whenever it comes to progressive Democrats, centrist and moderate Democrats are more of a roadblock than Republicans are. That's just screaming volumes to me. But here's also the crazy thing that a lot of people don't know. Well, a lot of people do know. And a lot of people not only do know, but at the same time, we already see what's going to happen with this vote. Okay. Yes, currently, as of this recording, the vote did pass in the Senate. It is going to the House. It effectively does need 3 rounds of voting to pass. If any of those rounds fail, the bill's died. The bill is dead. If it does pass all 3 rounds of voting, then it goes up to the president, and then Taco effing signs it, and government's reopened if that's the case. So the shutdown could actually technically end Wednesday night. Technically. If one of the votes is through reconciliation, and if all Republicans are on board, technically it can end tonight. The thing that I know, but here's the thing that I keep saying when I say you cannot negotiate with terrorists. And of course, the Republicans are terrorists. They are the American Taliban. That being said, this is what Speaker of the House Mike Johnson had admitted about this deal that they made with Senate Democrats. I just want you to listen.
That we'd like to bring back to the table, because that will actually solve the problem and not just subsidize insurance companies.
So you're not committing to bringing up a bill that deals with the Obamacare subsidies before they expire?
I'm not committing to it or not committing to it. What I'm saying is that we do a deliberative process. That's the way this always works, and we have to have time to do that, and we will in a bipartisan fashion.
If something passes the Senate, it would only pass on a bipartisan basis. Yeah. Would you bring it up?
Well, the bill that's going to pass
to extend the subsidies, that later vote.
I can't commit to anything that hasn't even passed through the Senate yet. I mean, I've never done that. I'm very consistent. I've been Speaker for over 2 years, and one of the reasons I've held the gavel is because I don't go out and predetermine outcomes. It's a member-driven institution, as it should be, and I'm really insistent about that. We got to get back to regular order, and that's what we're doing here.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it straight from the Speaker of the House's mouth. Well, I can't commit to something that's not already there. The Republicans, and I stress this very heavily, the Republicans have no intention of talking about increasing the ACA subsidies. They have no intention. They have been wanting, and I don't know if anybody does remember this, since Paul Ryan was the Speaker, they have been wanting to kill Obamacare, the ACA, since their inceptions. They have been wanting to kill both of those things. They have wanted to gut Social Security. They have wanted to gut Medicare and Medicaid because they wanted to privatize these things. They have been wanting to kill Obamacare since. They have been wanting to kill the ACA law since. And now, you think for 1 second they're going to discuss the promise? Oh, the promise was, oh, we'll get a vote on this. That's all you get, a vote, not a guarantee, Senator Tim Kaine, which you try to sell the American people on. You try to sell us on a promise. You cannot expect a politician to follow through on a promise, especially a Republican, who's already dead set on ensuring that American healthcare does not look the way we think it'll look. But also, Hakeem Jeffries also has some thoughts on this as well. And let's just say he was pretty PO'd.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is holding a news conference after 8 Democrats in the Senate voted with Republicans on a deal to end the government shutdown. Let's listen.
Class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans to be able to go see a doctor when they need one. And so House Democrats and Senate Democrats have been fighting hard to address the Republican healthcare crisis and to lower the high cost of living for everyday Americans in the United States of America. Because the reality is, America is too expensive. And far too many people are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. They can't thrive. They can barely survive. And that's why Democrats have been waging this fight. And we'll continue to wage this fight. No matter what comes over to us from the United States Senate to the House of Representatives at some point this week. Our position as House Democrats has been crystal clear. We will sit down with any Republicans, anytime, any place, anywhere, in order to find a bipartisan path forward, but we're not down with their my way or the highway approach to governance. That's failed the American people. It's been a disaster for the American people, and the American people know it, which is why last Tuesday, Republicans all across the country got wiped out. One of the most decisive off-year elections ever in modern American history. And so as House Democrats, we know we're on the right side of this fight, the right side of the American people. And we're not going to support partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. And we're going to continue the fight to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. And if it doesn't happen this week, next week, this month, next month, then it's the fault of Donald Trump, House and Senate Republicans, who continue to make life more expensive for the American people. Questions?
Some Democrats in your own caucus are suggesting Schumer is an effective Senate Democratic leader and should be replaced. You, of course, are critical of this deal. Do you view him as effective, and should he keep the job?
Yes and yes.
Do you trust in this deal? There is language for President Trump and the Trump administration to reverse some of the firings that happened during the shutdown. Do you trust?
We've just been watching House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on Capitol Hill there.
Yeah, not happy. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Not freaking happy. And I do not blame him, because I will say this. I wish he went one step farther. I wish, like I said before, here's my thing about optics. Optics are everything. And yes, the Hateful Eight may have went on their own end and said, we need to reopen the government. Why is not every other Democrat saying, we didn't agree with this? I know AOC, Bernie Sanders have been very vocal about this. Governor Gavin Newsom has been very vocal about this. But from an optics standpoint, the rest of the Democratic Party is not as vocal as the rest of them. And I always thought to myself, why is that? Why not call them out? It's like, are we afraid to turn around and sit there and say, we don't agree with one of our fellow party members? Like, we don't agree with what you guys did. Matter of fact, you guys are effing idiots. I wish that was said, because then I would look at them and go, oh, so, okay, so it's just you guys. Because, again, the Republicans had nothing going for them. They were on the ropes. Like I said, approval ratings for tacos in the toilet. And at the same time, you guys had the momentum, had the swing, and decide to punt on 1st and 10. And hope to and try to tell us that, oh, if we punt now, then we should be secure down the line. I will sit there and say this: if healthcare premiums do increase, blame those 8 people, because those 8 people not only are well off, some more well off than others. Not only those 8 people were still getting paid when the government was shut down, and everybody else is struggling to find food or to, keep bill collectors away. They're going to be fine. And come the midterms, come the midterms, they might not even be reelected. Their golden parachutes are secure, and they're trying to tell you that yours is based off a promise. This is why other Democrats need to come together and just say, no, we're against it. And force the Republicans to either come up with their own, go through reconciliation. But at this moment, which they can still do, because like I said, this is still early in recording this podcast, so the vote hasn't happened yet. But if it does go through, blame the 8, the hateful 8, that is. But before we move on to the reason why the old guard Democrat needs to go, I got to talk about Stephen A. Smith for a minute, because this Uncle Tom blowhard, really over the moon, overpaid sports announcer that ESPN/Disney is stuck with, decided to sit there and say that the Dems had planned a shutdown the entire time. I wish I could make this up.
How are you?
I am doing very well. And yes, you have done quite well for yourself since our last interview more than 20 years ago. All right. Speaking of interviews, Stephen, you just interviewed Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Let's take a listen to a little bit of that conversation.
The art of the deal, a guy that can make a deal, that can figure out a way to get a deal done. Where's that guy with all of this right now while federal employees are not being paid?
I'm glad you asked. I mean, he is the great deal maker, and he tried before this began. Remember, we had that fateful meeting where Leader John Thune in the Senate, I, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, the 2 Democrat leaders, we all went to the Oval Office. He brought us all in, and we sat right across Resolute desk. And the president tried to make a deal with those guys. And he said, guys, don't close the government down. It doesn't help anyone. It hurts the American people. And they just basically gave.
All right. So can we break some news? Did you get him to reopen the government, Stephen?
No, they did not. They still haven't reopened the government. Both sides are pointing fingers, and the American people are the ones suffering. Over 1 million people furloughed or unemployed. Obviously, they're not getting checks right now, even though they were asked to come to work. It's a disgrace. It's an embarrassment. It's a dereliction of duty. We all know this about the politicians on Capitol Hill, but I will concede that, unlike, even though I did have House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries on the show as well, that same show I had the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, on with as well. He came on 30 minutes before Speaker Johnson. The reality is they're showing up and they're making the case that a continual resolution is something that they agreed to and signed 13 different times when Biden was in office. Now Trump is in office, and here they are with it again. The last time you've had a shutdown this long was in 2019, or so 2018 into 2019 with Trump. So they're attributing it to the hatred of Donald Trump, and it's simplistic for them in that regard. For me personally, I look at it from the standpoint that I think the Democrats all along had it planned that they weren't going to do anything before the election because they believed that a shutdown ultimately would hurt the GOP because of Donald Trump. And as a result, it turns out that looks like it was accurate. The Republicans are trying to downplay it, saying Virginia, New Jersey for the gubernatorial races were essentially a blue states anyway. So that was going to happen. Of course, New York City with the mayoral position with Mamdani was going to happen anyway. But the Democrats are using it as an argument to say there's justification, that there's voters' remorse when it comes to Donald Trump. And that's what they're holding on to. And that's why this stuff is continuing. Either way you slice it, people are suffering. Bills are not being paid. And I think it's a disgrace that government officials are allowed to continue to get paid and to receive health care when American citizens who are willing to show up to work and are mandated to continue to do so are not getting paid at all. It's an absolute disgrace.
Let me follow up with 2 things. All right. Let me start with the disgrace part of things. You recently walked off the stage during this town hall. You were frustrated by the stories of real people that you were talking to that are suffering from no pay, having a DoorDash to make ends meet. What should the government be doing right now?
They should be getting the deal done. They should be signing a continual resolution and to keep our government running. And then you go about the business of negotiating the deal. Listen, I'm not trying to absolve either side. I think they're both wrong. But I do think that the Republicans make a very poignant case when they say they signed the CR on 13 separate occasions when the Democrats were in office. But when Trump was in office, you didn't want to do it in 2018, 2019, and you don't want to do it now. And so when you consider the fact that in the 2024 election, that they got their behinds handed to them, that, with young voters, with female voters, et cetera, every swing state that they had lost, the Democratic Party is devoid of power. They're making a play to regain power. From a political perspective, you can understand their position. You can even empathize with it to some degree until you take into account the fact that American citizens are not being paid. And when you know you're not being paid, particularly when you insist that they show up to work to not be paid, that to me is where it really, really gets egregious. They can't quit. They can't take days off or not show up and then go someplace else, like the air traffic controller at the town hall that I walked off stage from. The air traffic controller has to go to work for DoorDash. He still had to show up to work the next day, because if he did it, he'd be fired. And then once the shutdown ends, he doesn't have a job. Those are the kind of things that should not be happening in the United States of America at this particular moment in time. And I think it's important for people like myself, you, and everybody else to call them out for it and to make life excessively uncomfortable for them in terms of not being able to make a deal. Sign the CR, get the government back up and running, and then go about the business of negotiating. And if it's for Affordable Care Act subsidies and what have you, listen, the Republicans have a case just like the Democrats have a case. We can hear arguments on both sides, but it shouldn't be at the expense of the American people. It should be for the American people.
Well,
oh, my head hurts. That makes my head hurt. I'm sorry. Stephen A., I know. Hang on, let me pull up. I know it, as Black people, we should not down other Black people. We shouldn't. We really shouldn't. That being said, him, the Hodge twins, Officer Tate, Jesse Peterson, that one woman's name on Fox News because they got to have one Black woman because they want to show the diverse, and then Stephen A. Smith. Oh, let me not forget Tim Scott and Byron Donald, because the trash pandas, because I can't say what I really want to say, the trash pandas will always come out and always sing and dance the Republican tune. This is what Stephen A. does, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I can't stand Stephen A. because, number one, he's a blowhard. He is literally and figuratively, he's just loud and obnoxious. He's loud and obnoxious. That's all he is. He's been that way for going on 30 years now. He's been a blowhard. But it's amazing that now he's in the political arena. But you, sir, are hearing the stories of constituents who are hurting, and you got to walk off stage. It's too much for you. That lets me know, sir, please don't go into politics. Don't even, speak from your armchair quarterback position, from your $100 million deal that you have with ESPN Disney. Speak from there, because it's safe for you. It's safe for you. Because you sit there saying, well, the Democrats the Republicans have a case. Where's their case? The Republicans have had power for quite a while. And what have they done with it? Everything is worse under them. They have nobody to blame. Trump cannot blame Biden. Trump cannot blame the Black guy who hasn't been there for quite some time. It's all his and their doing. And it amazes me so that you sit there and you have the unmitigated gall to sit there and say, well, the Democrats, you guys could have done this a long time ago. Why you didn't do it now? Really, Mr. Armchair Quarterback? This is why I keep saying, Stephen A., if you want to join the political party, go ahead and join the political party. But quit dipping your toe in the water and then running back to your sports desk, running back to your Sirius XM desk, and then throwing rocks. But when it's time for you to get your baptism by fire, oh, well, I'm not a political commentator. I'm just a sports analyst. Yeah, one that sucks at that. But that just kills me, where it's him and others, the other trash pandas, that will always pander, always grift, because grifting creates cash. And that's what Stephen A. does best. He is a grifter, if anything else. But moving right along, back, I want to get to some other stuff, because, again, I keep on talking about the old guard needs to go. I guess Pelosi must either heard me or this was a long time coming, as she does announce that she will not be seeking re-election.
Motion is adopted. The end of an era tonight for Democrats and for one of the country's most powerful women in politics ever.
I will not be seeking re-election to Congress.
85-year-old Nancy Pelosi announcing her retirement.
We have always led the way, and now we must continue to do so by remaining full participants in our democracy.
Pelosi was first elected to represent San Francisco nearly 40 years ago, ultimately becoming in 2007 the first woman to serve as Speaker of the House.
Today, we have broken the marble ceiling.
Pelosi helped shepherd the Affordable Care Act into law under President Obama and pushed a climate and health care law under President Biden, before wielding her influence to nudge him out of the 2024 race.
Nancy,
And with President Trump, Pelosi became a chief antagonist, controversially tearing up his 2020 State of the Union remarks and going after him as recently as this week.
He's just a vile creature, the worst thing on the face of the earth.
President Trump, late today.
I think she's an evil woman. I'm glad she's retired.
Some Republicans have questioned the millions she and her husband made in stock trades, with Pelosi brushing off accusations of insider trading, saying she's not involved in her husband's investment choices. Pelosi has faced the threat of political violence. 3 years ago, Paul Pelosi was attacked in the couple's home. Today, her focus on her constituents as she steps away from the chamber she shaped for decades.
She is the most effective speaker in American history.
Looking ahead, Pelosi's retirement may send a signal to other long-serving Democrats to make room for younger leaders.
Should. And I'm not knocking Pelosi. I really am not. She has had some momentous times in her political career. I'm not knocking that at all. But it goes back to what I said. The old guard needs to go. She is a moderate Democrat, centrist Democrat. And yes, they always talk about, well, the millions that she made in stocks. Okay, let me point this out. There's no such thing as a broke politician. No such thing. And until there is a wall, and I said before, that needs to be an amendment. If you are a politician in Congress, you cannot own, trade, you cannot own, buy, or trade stocks in any shape or form because you have access to certain material that the temptation is way too freaking great to line up your own pockets. But here's the crazy part. How many times has a bill like that been introduced into Congress, and how many times has it yet to be signed into law? In the same sense, why is it that the amendment to change, politicians being paid during a government shutdown? Why has that not been amended and replaced with those that are considered essential workers? Air traffic controllers, first responders, people of that nature should be paid during a government shutdown. Representatives and senators should not. Why hasn't that been done? See, I can keep going down the list that I said there's no such thing as broke politician. But going back to Nancy Pelosi, again, she's had a storied career. At the same time, the old guard does need to go. Her, Schumer, everybody else. Because like I said, Congress is basically a nursing home with power. And yes, if people go say, well, what about AOC? What about Jasmine Crockett? What about Rashida Tlaib? What about all these people that should be moving? Ilhan Omar. Yes, they should be the leaders moving forward. They should be. And I said before, I've got nothing against women leading the Democratic Party. I've got nothing against that. Matter of fact, I think it should happen. I think if you really want to shake things up, there needs to be a progressive wave through the Democratic Party, and it should be led by women. Men have had a chance for a very long time. Let's see what women can do when they've been given the ball and running with it. Because we've seen AOC, we've seen Jasmine Crockett, we've seen Rashida Tlaib, we've seen Ilhan Omar, we have seen so many others, and that's just a few I've named. There's many others who are young, progressive, and again reflect us. Because no offense to Ms. Pelosi, you at this point are reflecting a group of people who are more toward the AARP side than us currently right now, the younger voters. So yes, thank you for your service, but at the same time, yes, the old guard of the Democrats needs to go. That's just being honest. But before we get to all the craziness that Taco decided to let loose this week, this actually dropped. And you know what? There must be something in these Epstein files that must be on the destruction level of Hiroshima. That's all I'm going to say before I play this.
Breaking news, the White House responding after Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released some of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's emails referencing President Trump. In a 2011 email, Epstein referred to Donald Trump as the, quote, dog that hasn't barked, and told his former companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, that an alleged victim had spent hours at his house with Trump. The head Democrat on the committee says the emails raised questions about a White House cover-up of the Epstein files. But Republicans in the White House say Democrats are trying to create a fake narrative to slander the president. Trump has denied any wrongdoing and any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. ABC's Jay O'Brien has the latest. Jay, how do these emails fit into the Epstein investigation, and how's the White House responding?
So they were released this morning, Diane, as you say, by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. They are part of thousands of pages of records from the Epstein estate that this committee has obtained. The Republicans on the committee just dropped tens of thousands of pages of records from the Epstein estate, somewhat in response to this. But that one email that you just referenced is so far from what we have seen the most notable. That sentence that Jeffrey Epstein writes Ghislaine Maxwell about Trump being, quote unquote, that dog that hasn't barked. And he also notes that what, as of this morning, when the email came out, was an unnamed victim. Now Republicans say it is prominent Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre. Epstein writes of her to Maxwell in 2011, quote, that she spent hours at my house with him being Trump. He has never once been mentioned. Then Ghislaine Maxwell responds, quote, I have been thinking about that. All of that to say, this comes after, remember, Ghislaine Maxwell testified this summer in a closed-door deposition that was recorded with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, the president's former lawyer, that she never witnessed Trump do anything inappropriate. There is this now exchange with Epstein where she references some prior knowledge, at least of Epstein, of Trump having interacted with his victims in the past. Democrats say that in some form or fashion contradicts what she said to the Department of Justice. Republicans are pushing back on that. And we do, as you noted, have reaction from the White House today. I want to put it up on your screen. It's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who has said that this is part of what she labels as a political maneuver on the part of committee Democrats. She says, quote, I'll read a little bit. These stories are nothing more than bad faith efforts to distract from President Trump's historic accomplishments. We know Republicans on the Oversight Committee as well have accused Democrats of cherry picking emails out of, again, these reams of documents that they got out of the Epstein estate.
Jay, Republicans also accuse Democrats of withholding records that name Democrat officials. You mentioned that they're now releasing 20,000 more documents subpoenaed from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. What are you watching for as the team goes through those new documents?
We're going through them now. In fact, I was just in a room with a few of my colleagues as we were poring over those records. From what we have seen so far, and the emphasis is, of course, on so far, because it's more than 20,000 pages and we're continuing to go through them. Right now, in terms of prominent people who are mentioned by name in emails between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, for example, which was Jeffrey Epstein's convicted accomplice, the only name we've seen so far is President Trump. Obviously, we are only through a sliver of these 20,000 or so pages. Republicans on the committee have said there are names, to your point, of prominent Democratic officials as well. We've seen some correspondence with Steve Bannon, who was obviously a top advisor in President Trump's first administration. He has remained in his orbit. Some correspondence about Jeffrey Epstein's public image with him, things of that nature. But so far, in terms of references to President Trump, those emails that you talked about earlier are all we have seen for the most part.
Jay, a new Democrat.
All I can say is, wow. Again, you must, how can I put this so nicely? There must be other stuff. Because, let's be honest, we know Taco and Epstein were friends. Taco and Epstein might have shared things and individuals. It's fairly obvious, but it's amazing how Taco is still trying to say, I never did it. I never harmed anybody. I never did this. And yet more and more keeps coming out. I'm just saying, the day that all of it gets released, I look, and that's people say, well, there were Democrats and other people there too. Then all of them should go. All of them should burn. I don't care if Mickey Mouse was in the Epstein files, let it burn. Because again, there is something to this, along with Hakeem Jeffries talking about about a pedophile protection network that Hakeem Jeffries did. I thought that was pretty interesting. But if there's something in those files, let it out. Because honestly, it needs to at this point. And everybody that's involved in it should burn. That's me. Now, of course, as long as Pam Bondi's the AG, they'll never be prosecuted because she's too much of Trump's lapdog. Just saying. But speaking of Trump, guys, because again, the next couple of stories we're going to try to go through fairly fairly quick because, let's be honest, they're halfway stupid. I'll start with this one because Taco, because of his answers in healthcare, this is what this pendejo is saying. That these are ideas that he's come up with for giving cash to Americans. Here it is again. Oh, they don't like me. Throw them money so they'll worship me. And that's exactly what he's doing. He wants to give out $2,000 dividends. Where are those $2,000 dividends, you ask? From tariff revenue. Yes. Let me make myself a little bit bigger. He wants to give you, Mr. Dictator, king in his own mind, wants to give you a $2,000 stimulus check from dividends from tariff revenue. Woo! Ah! Ha! There's no such thing as tariff revenue. Tariffs are what you guys pay because tariffs are not going to be paid by the exporter or the importer. They are not going to be paid by the distributor. They're not going to be paid by the retail person. Everybody's going to pass that cost along to the lowest person on the totem pole, the consumer, you. So to think that you think that we're getting tariff revenues from all the tariffs that Taco has put into place, I've got beachfront property in Tennessee I want to sell you. At the same time, he wants to take the money that is being sent to insurance companies to save the bad healthcare and give it again directly to the people. How much, you ask? $2,000. And yet, how? This would mean that the money that's going to the ACA and Obamacare, which again has allowed many people to be able to get healthcare, he is now wanting to, because he can't kill it yet, he wants to basically choke it out. And in doing so, he believes that, Americans can take their own money and find better healthcare. You know what this sounds like, ladies and gentlemen? This sounds like school choice. I should know I'm in Tennessee. Idiot Governor Bill Lee and the succubus of a bitch, Marsha Blackburn, are always promoting school choice. What is school choice? School choice is basically giving you a voucher to send your child to whatever school you want. How are those funds being paid? Out of public education, which means public schools suffer while charter schools, while private and sometimes religious schools will get that free federal money. And that alone should tell you something. That if you think tariff revenues, it's like, well, Trump was the only one that gave me a $2,000 check from an idea that initially started out from President Biden. We know. But if you do get a $2,000 check, I guarantee it'll come to you on February 30th of next year. Have fun with that. Beyond that, guys, he also, in the world of real estate, because, Taco is a real estate tycoon. He is a magnate. He's the master negotiator, right? Has decided that, the 30-year mortgage isn't really working anymore. Let's try 50-year mortgages. I wish I could make this up.
This morning, new backlash as the Trump administration moves forward with a plan to introduce 50-year mortgages.
It looks to be like the president's looking for a quick fix to a market that is fundamentally broken right now.
Over the weekend, Trump sharing this image comparing the proposal to the 30-year mortgage policies championed by FDR nearly a century ago. The move could potentially kickstart the now stagnant real estate market. Homes are currently seeing the lowest turnover rate in 30 years, and the median age of first-time home buyers just hit an all-time high of 40 years old.
It's really difficult to see right now for younger borrowers how they are going to be able to afford a home.
A longer fixed-rate mortgage would lower monthly payments, but would also create a higher total cost because of all that interest over 5 decades. Take a $400,000 loan at 6% interest. Under a 30-year mortgage, the monthly payment would be just shy of $2,400. Under a 50-year loan, it drops to just over $2,100, a savings of nearly $300 a month. But over time, that savings is erased by a much larger interest bill, because while the total interest on a 30-year loan would be about $463,000, The interest on a 50-year loan would total more than $860,000. Many, including longtime allies of President Trump, are not on board with the idea. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, quote, "It will ultimately reward the banks, mortgage lenders, and home builders, while people pay far more in interest over time and die before they ever pay off their home, in debt forever, in debt for life."
And the White House has not yet explained how it would get around the Dodd-Frank Act, which effectively bans mortgages longer than 30 years.
That was also the other thing I wanted to point out too. But let's go back for a second, shall we? Let's do some math. Let's do some math, everybody. So yes, Taco has decided, oh yeah, let's reduce 50-year mortgages. So let's use a little bit of math here, as they've already shown. Take a $400,000 house, 6% interest. Yes, you might pay a little bit less in monthly payments, but your interest rate will double, if not triple. So let's just say on a $400,000 loan, $800,000 of interest. Total would have been over $1 million for a $400,000 home. A $400,000 home that if someone decided that, hey, we need this home at 50-year mortgage, yeah, $1 million plus after all said and done. $1 billion plus. And yes, the journalist is right at the end. The Dodd-Frank Act does prevent mortgages, does not allow for mortgages longer than 30 years. So the Dodd-Frank Act is still in place. But the thing about it is, y'all, it's crazy because, like she said, the only ones that win are banks, hedge funds, and Wall Street. They're the only ones who win. Really and truly, the only ones who win. And at the same time, how else do you sit there and you say, the American dream is dead, or at least on life support? Because unless you win the lottery, which last time I checked, I think Mega Millions up to over $1 billion now, unless you come into a windfall amount of money, getting a home these days is damn near impossible. It is. But 50-year mortgages is not the answer. It really isn't. But the last thing I got about Taco is because, well, he went on Fox News with Laura Ingraham, also another consistent douchebag. And he said something that, well, I never thought I'd hear on Fox News, but let's just play the clip.
Fronted on Fox about H-1B visas and why he's not prioritizing jobs for American workers in manufacturing. Listen to this.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people
here.
here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
It's an interesting soundbite. I mean,
I love that look. Oh, that look she had. I wish I could. Yeah, right there. Oh, right there. Oh, that look of, did Fox News actually just make sense? At the same time, I just love that look on her face. That look on her face screams volumes. It screams volumes about what was just said. Because when it comes to Taco, keep in mind, when it comes to Fox News is all about American faith, family values, and whatever bullshit they can never get past. It's just weird that Taco said that and said we do have to have more foreign workers to train our American workers, because he said the quiet part out loud, ladies and gentlemen. You know what he said? American companies will not invest to pay to train domestic workers. He said the quiet. I never thought Taco may actually get one right, but he sat there and said it. Companies would rather go overseas to pull experienced people than invest in local workers and train them properly. And don't believe me, remember the factory in Georgia, the Hyundai factory? You know, where Ice Barbie, Christy Noam, and the DHS and ICE literally detained, I think, over 300 South Korean individuals that were just there to train the American workers and how to run their factory. But I just love the fact that Taco sat there and said the quiet part out loud, that American companies don't want to invest in their workers. They'd rather go ahead and pay for the experience, which is exactly what they did. I just love the fact that it was said. But again, that's just a reflection of where we are, because they talk, well, we need to get back to American companies, manufacturing, American products. We need to get back to where we were exporter. You won't. Or since it won't be anytime soon, because these companies have decided, hey, our manufacturing can be done faster overseas, cheaper overseas, and we can get it at a profit to where we can make here if we export it back. So that's why I said the whole idea of companies outside of the trade industry. I will say this, outside of trades. So if you want to be a welder, fabricator, lineman, plumber, auto technician, contractor, those type of things, they'll train you on the spot, no problem. The one thing I'll say about the trades industry, don't knock it, because again, we will always need the trade industry will never have a slow day. You will always need contractors, you always need electricians, you will always need plumbers, you also need auto technicians, you will also need so many other positions that I will spend all day naming from the trades. They will never have slow days. They will always need people. But the real cool part about that, you learn on the job while being paid. So I will say this: outside of the trade industry, you'll be outside the trade industry and the hospitality industry, you'll be very hard pressed to find companies that will still pay to train new people. They'd rather lowball people with experience. But again, Taco saying something profound wasn't on my bingo card for 2025. But I wanted to bring this up as well because, again, guys, remember the South Korean, the plant in Georgia that I just got through mentioning not too long ago? Well, they're going to be suing. The workers that were detained in Georgia from South Korea are now setting up a lawsuit to where they will be suing the U.S. government, the Department of Homeland Security, the ICE, and pretty much everybody that was involved. I freaking love it because it needed to happen. It needed to happen for the simple fact of the matter, guys, is just that for the simple fact of the matter, the only way you're going to stop somebody is to hurt their paycheck. It's true. You're going to have to hurt their paycheck. There is no way around it. There is no way under it. The only way you're going to get them to understand is that you have to hurt them on their bottom line. So I will keep up with that story. I can't wait to see when that lawsuit comes out, because trust me, the U.S. government does not want Hyundai pulling out of anything, because that means billions of dollars, loss of jobs, and racism is expensive. A couple more stories before we get to our feel good segment, guys. I wanted to cover this one because, again, who all remembers Kim Davis from a few years ago? Kim Davis, a woman who was a former county clerk in Kentucky who refused to issue a marriage license to a gay couple because it was against her religion. Remember that whole thing? It's against my religion to issue a marriage license to a gay couple. Ma'am, you work in a public capacity. Your religion has nothing to do with it, although you want to blame it. So we all remember the story, guys. She got paraded around. Trump tried to defend her and all this stuff. Eventually, she lost her job, got sued. And then the funny part was, for some odd reason, she decided to try to file an appeal that eventually did make it to the Supreme Court and was eventually rejected. They didn't even give her the time of day. Again, racism and bigotry are expensive. And I do not feel bad for that woman. Hopefully her 15 minutes of fame will just go by as quickly as Kid Rock's last album did, where nobody cared. And the last thing I'll talk about, guys, before we get to our feel-good segment is, look, gun safety is a thing, and I get it to a certain extent. But here's the problem I'm going to have with this next story, that several states are now requiring public schools to teach kids about gun safety. So here's the thing. There's a reason why you don't see the DARE program in schools anymore. Not to say that the war on drugs wasn't something. The war on drugs is actually bullshit. But here's the thing about kids. Okay. When we send our kids to school, we want them to learn. We want them to have a decent quality. We want them to have a quality, decent education. We want them to be able to read and write and to think critically. We want them to also enjoy their childhood. Well, but with the whole thing of gun safety coming up, guys, with school shootings and kids finding their parents' guns and accidentally discharging them and things of that nature, I never really understood why gun safety needs to be taught in schools. I've never understood it. I can understand it being taught in a Boys and Girls Club. I can understand it being taught at a youth auxiliary group. I understand it's been taught in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, but school. The absolute last thing that kids need to be worried about in school is guns. But to me, it's always, these are all Band-Aid situations. We refuse to acknowledge the humongous wound that was left and would rather let it fester and pus up, and then put Band-Aids over it. Well, let's teach kids about gun safety in school. No, let's not. The same sense of teaching kids about how to use a gun. Now, however you want to do your house, that's on you. I know for me as a gun owner, I refuse to teach my children about guns because kids do not have the mindset that adults have. For example, owning a gun is obviously very, your responsibility, no question. Not even. I mean, you need it. You have to have it. Responsibility above all else. But teaching a child how to use a gun, disarm a gun, arm it, or even put it in a fireable position, that to me screams danger. Because a child is not an adult. They are developing. They get scared. They still will have a fight or flight response, just like adults do, but they will go running instead of fighting. And again, you don't want to introduce a situation of that type of knowledge to children. I mean, you can tell kids, like, this is the difference between, there's the difference between, and I know in this case that they're trying to say that this is the difference between a real gun and a fake gun. But at the same time, I do believe it should be a parental decision. I don't think it should be a public school decision. It should be a parental decision. If you want your child to learn about gun safety or how to recognize things of that nature, I'm pretty sure in any city and state, there's plenty of resources to where you can do that. But I don't think, above all else, it should be a school decision. It should be a parental decision to let the parents decide whether or not they want their child to learn about gun safety. But doing it in public schools, I never understood that, because all you're basically doing is giving unnecessary knowledge when kids should be learning more about how to be critical thinkers, not knowing the difference between but not trying to actually know how the inner workings of a firearm. That's just me, just saying. But we're going to move on to our feel-good segment, because usually on How the Frack we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes it makes you faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. We'll leave you guys out some good vibrations. Also, want to give a shout out to veterans, because yesterday, November 11th, was Veterans Day. So for all those that are veterans, whether former, current, and active, or no longer with us, thank you for your service. Above all else, we at How the Frack we got here, thank you for your service. That being said, guys, a former president decided to board a plane with a group of veterans. And again, this kind of gives me the vibes of when you got to come back and still do your old job because the new guy's fucking up. Former President Obama did take a flight to DC. And again, I don't know what it is about that man, but I feel way better whenever he's actually interacting. It just makes me miss the fact of the type of president we had. And yes, I'm a President Obama fan, but here's a clip.
This honor flight is to honor all the veterans of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. It's all free for them. We show them all their monuments and explain what their monuments are about. We just try to treat them with dignity that some of them didn't get when they came home from the war.
Hello, everybody. What? As we approach Veterans Day, I wanted to stop by and just say thank you for your extraordinary service. To you, your family, the sacrifices that all of you made to protect our country is something that will always be honored. And we are very grateful, and we also happen to welcome you with a 70-degree day in D.C., which doesn't always happen around here.
That's the first time I've seen a president, former or current, greet an honor flight, and that is absolutely amazing. A commander-in-chief, a leader who's going to show up and tell you that your service was worth something. I think that's the important part. So I think it was a great thing that happened.
Last time I got to see a president, it was Gerald Ford. How about that?
It was a joy in my heart today to see all these people. It's good. We still got people in our country, and that's good.
It tears in my eyes. I just couldn't believe that there was that many people around that remembered us and was there to greet us, and it was just unbelievable.
Well, it means a lot because back then you got off the plane there and you had no welcome and people were almost booing you.
I'm real happy that now with current troops that come back from deployments, they get welcomed back really nice because that's what should happen. So it's being recreated in this flight and it makes you feel good.
I haven't flown for 50 years. And I was in the military from 72 to 76. Our country puts these things up, these memorials, honoring the men and women that served. You couldn't ask for something greater.
This has been going on over 20 years, and it started out very small. And now a lot of states have their own hubs, and they raise their own money and and they set up the whole flights. They set up where they're going to go, the buses, the flights. Flight like today from Madison, Wisconsin will come in the morning and leave in the afternoon, and we'll get them around to every monument we can within reasonable time. Every city in this country has got veterans in it, I guarantee it. Go up and say thank you and just tell them how much you appreciate them.
And again, for all those, like I said, currently serving, former active, thank you for your service. But again, leave it to a president to come in and look, I've always said it best. If you got a president that comes in and you immediately feel relieved, that's a great sign of a president. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, that being said, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know it's live. I certainly appreciate that. Shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. Shout out to APR TV. Why? Because How the Frack can be seen on APR TV. It's an app that can be seen on the Roku channel store or Amazon Fire TV app, along with other shows that show there. So definitely check them out. You will not be disappointed. Also, BlurStation.com. I keep talking about this, guys. It is a streaming site that is for us, by us, that has plenty of content. Movies, television, manga, anime, you name it, they have it, especially with their new release of their original Blood Dealers, which again, if you like vampirism mixed with power, you're gonna definitely love this. But definitely check out BlurStation.com at BlurStation.com, $10.99 a month to stream. And yes, BlurStation can stream on all smart devices. Again, you will not be disappointed. Also, check out How the Frack Got Here on YouTube, guys. Literally type in How the Frack Got Here podcast, and you see my page and mug show up. Again, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification button so anytime you know that we do go live or a new upload is put up there, you'll be able to see it. Would definitely appreciate it if you can do it, guys, because again, none of our support can be done without you. So thank you, everybody has done that and has rocked with us since then. Also, check us out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Play, wherever you get your podcast from. Again, we are actually on Spotify and How the Frack We Got Here. Definitely like and subscribe there, as uploads usually happen after the podcast is done, to where you can listen to it the audio, or you can go to YouTube to see it. Either way, it's pretty cool. Also, my other show, the Gambit Podcast, for video gamers. You would love it, guys, as me and my compadres do go over the news of the week, as well as trailers, things of that nature, every Friday at 8:30. Definitely go to the GB Podcast on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe to the notification button, so that way you are notified anytime that we do go live. As for myself, guys, Black_Spartan615 is my personal page. You can like and follow me there. Even talk to me. I talk to everybody. Just don't make it weird. I don't want to get the whole point of blocking people. Also, my Blurcast brethren, or the caravan that we usually call ourselves, are. Definitely check all of them out. Blurred's Eye View, also on YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday. Check out Roomful of Blurs, as she is live every Sunday. Check out Geek by Heart, as they usually cover everything of movies and video games, even some streaming. Definitely cover them as well. Showquo, as she does streaming and anime. Definitely check her out. Fresh Press Z for all your nail tactician needs. Lore of the Culture, as they delve into the stacks of comic books and things of that nature. Navy Montel, the Blurred Reverend, I usually call him because he does talk a lot about positivity in the Blurred community. And I think I covered everybody. Oh, and Tafari TV, because this man is the hardest working man this side of the keyboard. Definitely check out Tafari TV, also on YouTube as well. Check them all out, like them, and follow them, because again, they all have something different to bring to the table, and you will not be disappointed. With that being said, guys, again, the midterms are coming up. I know right now things are not looking great, but please don't doom scroll. Find something that makes you happy. Protect your peace. Check on your friends. At the same time, get outside, enjoy the world. It's starting to get fall weather, although Tennessee, you can't tell because we're in that fall season. I missed the fact that it was actually good and cold for a few days, but that's just me. But again, enjoy life. I know Thanksgiving doesn't really leave a lot to be desired, whether you do it or not, or whether you use it as an excuse just to have food and friends around. Definitely do that, because right now we actually need each other. We need each other in this day and age. We need each other in right now time more than ever. So definitely stick to those that make you happy. Find things that make you happy. Protect your peace and your strength, because that's all we really need right now. But that being said, the last thing I'll say about Frack right here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past, making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman as the Federal Reserve Governor. Hopefully one day electing our first black woman to be called Madam President. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up but our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we will all get through this. Live long and prosper. Yes, I'm a Trekkie. Be well. We're going to be all right. Peace.